all the energy in the world could be pouring into you. And there are some times where you're just exhausted. And it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else other than you are tired.
If you knew the number of people that I've been talking to who are experiencing the exact same thing, myself included, let's normalize it. Please don't shame yourself. Please don't feel worse about feeling depleted, because it's depleting times. Hi there. Welcome to the Empowered and Embodied Show. I'm Kim Romain.
And I'm Louise Neil. We're two transformational coaches who are also fellow travelers on the path of growth and self-discovery. And we're inviting you along for the ride.
That's right. We're right here in the trenches with you, navigating the ups and downs of life. And each week we'll be sharing our own experiences, bringing you conversations with amazing guests, and exploring insights and strategies that have helped us find more clarity, confidence, and ease in our lives.
And trust us, we do not have it all figured out. We're learning and growing right alongside you.
So if you're ready to rise above the chaos, doubt, and confusion that sometimes life throws our way,
and step into a more empowered and embodied version of yourself,
then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Empowered and Embodied Show. I am one of your co-hosts, as always, Kim Romain, joined by the lovely and the wonderful.
That's me. I'm Louise.
Hey, Louise.
How many times have you said that?
Lovely and wonderful?
Well, not lovely and wonderful, but how many times have you introduced me?
Well, we're coming up on 200.
I know, right?
Yeah.
200 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 years. 4 years of weekly introductions.
I don't get tired of hearing it.
Yay.
I hope you don't get tired of doing it.
I don't. Nope. It's exciting. I love doing it. It always, no matter what mood or what baggage I bring into the space, the minute I start saying it, it's like, yeah, here we are again.
Yeah.
And we get to pour into each other and then pour into our listeners and just show up in a way that I don't get to show up in other places like this very often. And so it's just nice to be in dialogue, be in conversation. And again, just kind of, I use the term again, like pour into each other and then to our listeners. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We say it every week too in our intro that we're not here as experts, that we're not here because we have it all figured out. We're here because we're figuring it out. And we want to share our journey and what we're learning and seeing in the world too, and sharing our perspective on things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. It's so interesting because when you're talking about our perspectives and what we're seeing in the world, because we both have what's happening in our own lives, which at any given moment is woohoo and oh, right?
So that we're at the same time even.
Or at the same time even, exactly. And then we have all of these people that we talk to every week. Sometimes it's the same people week after week. Sometimes it's new people. And we're collecting information. And I always feel like, well, I don't always know every headline that's happening. I do know a lot, but I'm not so dialed in. And yet I'm really clear about what's happening because of the number of people that we talk to during the week, just hearing the threads and the themes. And this theme this week that I keep hearing over and over again is how tired and how emotional, right? It's like both of those words keep coming up. It's like I'm feeling a lot and I'm really tired, like I'm exhausted level tired. Sound familiar to you?
To me, yes. And to the folks that I'm talking to as well. It's always interesting because there's all of these places where we get and give energy. It's external, and there's a lot of different external places that can give us energy or can, I wouldn't say rob it, but take it from us, maybe without permission. And then there's that internal space too, around where we feel we're getting filled up and also like the physicality of tiredness, right? All the energy in the world could be pouring into you. And there are some times in midlife where you're just fucking exhausted. And it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else other than you are tired.
Yeah. I'm laughing because one, I feel it, but two, it's the conversations that I have where so many people come and they're like, "Do you know anybody else that's experiencing this? Have you ever heard anybody do?" And it's like, yes. If you knew the number of people that I've been talking to who are experiencing the exact same thing, myself included,
Yeah.
right? Let's normalize it. Not normalize it like this is what we want, but normalize it in terms of it's okay. Like, please don't shame yourself. Please don't feel worse about feeling depleted because it's depleting times. It is
And
depleting times.
right. And the last thing we want to do is to like even deplete ourselves even more with shame or guilt or confusion, even as like trying to figure out what is drawing your energy, trying to figure out how to fill yourself up and what you need. But I think we don't we don't spend enough time in our lives, kind of seeing all the places that can steal our energy or seeing all the places that can give us energy. During times like this, when we know, right, there are certain, right, the news for one can really steal our energy right now. And so recognizing that and making changes to say, okay, well, what are those boundaries or how can I protect myself a little bit so that I'm not as depleted, but also like finding those places that are fulfilling, right? Finding those places that can replenish. And they might be different places than you are used to.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. It's so interesting. So many things that are pouring into or want to pour out of my brain right now. I was reading an article this morning about somebody who's in the mindfulness wellness space. They're primarily a writer, primarily an author, but also a teacher. And they were sharing that it feels very weird to go out on book tour, to make all of these plans, to do all of these things when one, you feel so depleted. Two, the world is on fire. And in some places, quite literally, there's so much that we want to do. And yet there's so many hours that we want to crawl back into bed or just hug our loved ones or just feel joy for a minute. And then, but is it okay for me to feel joy? Right. It's how we vacillate in and out of all of these different places. And I feel like the more pressure we put on ourselves that this moment is supposed to be this, right? The world is on fire, so I need to pay attention to that. So I need to give it all my energy. Or I feel depleted, so now I need to go focus my energy on how I can replenish myself and feel joy and feel pleasure still while this is going on. That can deplete you even further, right? It's like, how do we come to that place of how do we honor the moment that we're in now versus, which can, as we said at the beginning, be holding multiple things versus feeling like we need to do something else. I feel like that's a lot of it is like, and we talk about shoulding in here, that place of I should feel this, I should do this, I should versus I am, right? I am feeling a lot of feels right now. I am feeling sad. I also feel happy about some things and excited and I'm feeling angry and I'm feeling nervous and worried. And, all of that can be right in this moment because that's literally what I'm feeling right in this moment. But if I'm not honoring my amness, like what I am right now, then I'm just moving through. And it's like I'm focusing on the things that need to be done, the responsibilities, keeping my head down, which is kind of a distraction from my amness because it's overwhelming. So yeah, so how do we help people through that? Because I know I'm not the only one. I mean, I know how I help people through it, but I'd love to have the conversation with you of right when we're experiencing all that stuff. And I know we talked last time about the word all, and I just heard it again. It's so funny. And yet, right, that place of noticing energetically what's actually happening, it's so different than I know we've been taught, right? It's if you feel depleted, if you feel upset, if you feel sad, go do something happy, go be joyful, go find the thing versus this is what I have, this is who I am. And how do I move with this? I went around like 14 circles there. So pick one.
You did. So a couple of things are coming up from what you were saying, and I think the first thing is that we absolutely try too hard to move through a moment or move through an emotion way too quickly because we've labeled good emotions and bad emotions. Like we've labeled it like, right? I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be sad. So let's move through that. So let's like go out and do the thing that is supposed to bring me joy or that's supposed to, right, balance the scale somehow. Let's just go do that. But really we're not sitting in this emotion for what it is without judgment, without labeling it even. How can we just sit in it for a little bit longer and let it kind of work its way through, which is actually less depleting than trying to immediately go fill it
Yep.
somewhere else, right?
Yep.
But we don't see that or believe it, or we haven't experienced it because we've labeled something like sadness, like how it feels, to be something that's depleting. Sadness doesn't have to be depleting. Sadness can be bring relief. Sadness can bring a sense of lightness after you travel through it, right? But we we try to bottle it up and push it aside or get through it as fast as we can so that we can like go do that thing. And then we're over there doing that thing that's supposed to be filling our buckets and we're just like it gets sticky. And so now like that's followed us. And so now something that maybe is or used to be replenishing is no longer replenishing because we've brought some baggage with us and it's just not working. So now we work harder at that. And now because we have to work at it, now it's depleting. And it's like, who wants happiness and joy to be work for crying
Exa-
out loud?
exactly.
So yeah, so that's what came up for me as you were talking. The other thing that came up for me is, uh, you know what? Sometimes, Kim, I am just so physically exhausted that all of those things that you just said, I don't even care,
Hmm.
right? I don't care. I don't care about the news. I don't care about what's happening. I don't care what's going on in my own backyard. I don't care about anything. I am just thinking about when's the next time I can nap in my schedule.
Yeah. I've had a lot of moments of exhaustion over the last few weeks, like pure exhaustion, where it's like, I can't continue. I can get to the end of a call and then say, what do I have next? Nothing. Great. I'm going to go lay down instead of doing any number of the other things that I would love to be working on or doing and just showing up. Like what we were just talking about is how do we honor that? Because that's as real as the joy and the pleasure and the anger and the sadness. Like exhaustion is real. And when we try to continue to push through, it only ends one way. I mean, I've experienced burnout, four instances of burnout, clinical burnout. You've experienced it, right? It's like most of our clients have experienced it or are experiencing it. So we know what happens when we do it. And yet, I don't know about you, but it took me a long time. And I don't know that I'm 100% there yet, but I'm close. Where there was a feeling of, well, initially it was feelings of guilt, but then eventually it like morphed into feelings of shame. Like, how can I be this? What am I doing wrong that I'm so exhausted?
Yeah. Um, or we can even start to mislabel like where that exhaustion comes from. Sometimes as we're going through midlife, like sleep becomes really, it's a tender spot for a lot of us. And it can be very fleeting. It can start to take on a life of its own and something that we're not used to. And like for me, what's kind of there's this guilt or this shame that gets attached to it. And then I've even had people say, right, it's like there are some times that I need to have a nap. Like I just can't do it. I am not sleeping well at night. I'm working on it. I'm well aware of what's going on, right? And so what's my medications? What are my therapies? What's my hygiene? Like I'm working on it. I'm not just like saying, oh well, I'm sleeping like shit. But as I work through it, they're all like it's not just magically going to change. And so there's a lot of like a little bit of guilt that comes along with it because people have said, well, you're lucky you get to nap in the afternoon. And I'm like, I recognize there's some privilege that comes with building my business. And I don't feel very lucky when I can barely keep my eyes open, or I'm not the best for my clients, or I can't finish, right, my three most important things in the day because I am just exhausted. And it's no matter how much sleep I get, I am still exhausted the next day. Right. And so there's like all of these, now we're having feelings about feelings, right? That all get packed up and bunched up and right and bung us up. And maybe that's a different episode. Right. It's really interesting because it's like, yes, like sometimes like let's do the deeper work and let's understand kind of like what's stealing our energy and where are we headed or what are we bringing with us? How are we seeking joy or pleasure in our lives? And sometimes it's like, how am I just keeping the lights on? And how can I do that? And how do I stop? Because we can't go through life or midlife just keeping the lights on. That's not a very that's not very fun. That sounds like another F word. That sounds like
Mhm. Yep.
right?
Well, and that's how I mean, I remember when we first started this podcast, we talked about fine a lot, the nasty F word, fine. And so much has happened in the world in the past 4 years. And I think we are at a time where no, we don't want to be focused on fine, right? We still want to find our way through to something more, I want to say expansive, something that feels more authentic to us than fine, because we are all here. Every single one of the 8 billion of us, or however many there are on this planet, we're all here with our own personal agency, our own authority, our own autonomy. Even those of us that live somewhere that we can't practice it still exists. And how do we start to take tiny microbursts of that to live our lives for us, not for the machine, not for the man, not for the right, not for what we've created and built as humans? Because I think that's so much of what I'm seeing right now is survival mode. How do I just get through the day?
Yeah.
Right? I have so much I want to do, and that's where I'm saying, right? It's like the 17 things that you're feeling at once. And then you just kind of just put the blinders on and you just do the thing, or you feel the feels and whatever, but it's still survival mode. It's how do I get through this moment? How do I get through this day? It was interesting. I was talking with a friend of mine who had recently been through a training program that I think is called Bridges Out of Poverty or something like that. And it's talking about the different spheres of influence that we have based on kind of where we are socioeconomically. And at one end of the spectrum, when we're in poverty, right, it's how do I get through? And it used to be, how do I get through the week? Middle class was how do I get through the next 5 to 10 years? And wealthy was how am I planning past 20 years? And what I'm noticing is those spheres, one, are getting a little bit more muddied, but two, I'm seeing it that time has shortened, right? It's not how do I get through a week, it's how do I get through the day. And those that are in the middle class are experiencing that too. And it's how do I get through the month? That's a socioeconomic thing. So we have the physical part, the physiological aspects of what's shifting and changing and how are we adapting to those shifts and changes. We have the socioeconomic thing that is weighing on us as well, that also shortens the time frame that we can be fine. And the longer we stay in fine, the more that habit becomes almost locked in
Yeah.
and the harder it is to break free from.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Fine becomes something that we get comfortable with very quickly, quicker than you think, because fine feels like a okay state to be in because it's not depleting or we think it's not depleting.
I was gonna say, is it? I think it is depleting. I think fine is not sustainable.
It's not, but it feels like it in the moment because things could be so much worse. See how our brains do that, right? Yeah.
I think about folks that it is worse. I talk to a lot of folks that it is worse. I can't imagine more challenging situations. personally, financially, physically, whatever they're going through, that aspect of themselves could not feel worse. They could not be experiencing worse. And that is how they're approaching everything else. So, and this is not said from a place of everything needs to have, you know, sparkles and rainbows on it and we're going to move you there. It's how do we slightly move you off of fine, right? I think of spoon theory here, right? How many spoons do I have in a day, like energetically? And how can I make it so that my spoons aren't either all full or all empty, right? How can I find a way to moderate my spoons so that I'm moving out of, well, one, out of just surviving, and then moving beyond fine to how can I do that to make it a little bit more sustainable?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I think that's different for everyone, right? But it is that understanding of like gonna an evaluation of like, so what is going on today, right? How are my spoons? Even that recognition that it changes throughout the day, and where can we start to make changes? But where can we start to notice patterns?
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Yeah. And we miss our data points when we're not paying attention to the day, right? And we start collecting this so we can notice patterns. And then we have actionable, like something to actually hang on to and create an actionable plan to make change to that pattern. That comes back to ourself, right? Our autonomy. We do get to change and make those adjustments. That's all in our control.
Yeah. And it is those micro adjustments and it's based on not just our internal awareness, right? I think it is done in connection with external awareness as well,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Understanding
Yeah.
where we can more easily shift some levers for ourselves,
Mhm.
right? Depending on what our circumstances are, where we live, where, you know, how deep we are in systemic oppression.
Yeah.
So some people aren't going to have a lot of levers. So let's find the ones that are accessible.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I see that so much in clients that I work long term with. And
Hmm.
so clients that I'm working, 6, 8, 12 months, it's so interesting because it's like they have these like big goals at the beginning of our coaching. And it's like, yeah, this is what's gonna happen. These are all the things. And usually kind of one of the like underpinning things is I'd like to be more confident. I like to have less self-doubt and I like to be more sure. Like I'd like clarity around like where am I headed? What am I doing with my life slash career, but really with your life. And it's so interesting because as we go through our program, it's not about these big like aha moments. It's not about these big changes that anybody makes. It's like, what are you fine tuning this week? What are you fine tuning, right? This month? What are you fine tuning? And you get to the end of our program and you look back and it's like, so like, right. How are you feeling? What has changed? It's like, I have more clarity. I'm more confident. I have less self doubt. And it's like, did we have one conversation about clarity, self doubt, or confidence? And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Because it is in those micro moments. It's in the collection of, right, all of those drops of water in the bucket, but we have to be paying attention.
Yeah. Do you remember when we ran that program about all the little micro shifts
We
that you can make?
did. Yeah, we did that on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the videos are still available on YouTube as well. And it's true. Like those little micro adjustments. I have one client who we were talking about wonder and awe, and I was in a group session. We were talking about wonder and awe and how we can welcome in a little bit more of that and what that does for us when we do it. And it was so funny because initially it was like it wasn't landing, it wasn't landing, it wasn't landing. And then all of a sudden there was a post and they said, it's micro joy for me. I'm like, cool. You found your way to it because, right? It's allowing ourselves to understand it in our own way. So when I talk about wonder and awe, that felt way too big.
Yeah.
That felt unattainable. How can I have wonder and awe? Like I can't experience that. I feel compressed right now.
Yeah.
So, but microjoy was super accessible and now is something that they have instilled in every day, right? This is now a practice. Where's that micro joy?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and it's like it's on the basis of the tiny habits, right?
Hmm.
And understanding that it is these small things. Whether it's understanding what's depleting you, right? And making small changes to like set up boundaries or containers or whatever that is in your life that's depleting you. And not to rush through, right? All of the things to say, okay, but what's filling my bucket? But it's understanding, okay, what are those little small spoons? Right? It's almost like the taster spoon, the pink spoon that you get at the ice cream
I
shop,
love those tiny spoons. When I was in Italy, I always used the tiny spoons
right?
with the tiny cups, and it was awesome. And I didn't even feel like a giant.
It's
Yeah,
tiny spoons that really make a big difference.
yeah, yeah. This is your 1/16th teaspoon. It's so interesting because going back to the piece that I was reading earlier today, right? It's how do you hold the world is on fire and I want to do something about it, and I just want to turn it off and I just want to be with my family and pay attention to what's closest to me that I love and that brings me joy. How do we show up in this world? It's the micro things. It's not all or nothing. It's little bits of all of it. Has, for those of us, and this is right, the world that I play in, for those of us that are making social impact and social change in the world, it's a hard time to be doing that and taking care of yourself because everything feels big. And what if we were to approach each of these things with saying, okay, today I'm going to use my teaspoon over here. It's bigger than my 16th, but I have a teaspoon that I can use over here. But over here, I only have the 16th or the 8th that I can use. So looking at that spoon and looking at the size of the spoon and saying, I'm just going to take small bits one day at a time. And then that moves the needle from surviving to fine to I can breathe.
Because it's like we have all the spoons that we need. We have every size that we need. We even have cups that we can use. And so it is about that recognition of like what do I have in my baking supplies that can be pulled
Mhm.
out to help in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How are you feeling now? I know when we were talking, when we started, you were like, "Ugh, fuck, all tired. How are you feeling now?
I still need a nap, don't get me wrong.
Okay, good. I hope you get one.
And, it's too about the recognition of I don't have to move mountains. I don't have to, right, like change all kinds of things. What are some of the small things that makes me feel accomplished? That's usually what I like to feel like at the end of the day, like I've like done something. And so it doesn't have to be cups of things that I tackled today. Maybe it is just the tiny teaspoons, or maybe all that I have accessible to me today is the little pink taster spoons. And that's okay because it is going to be tiny drops that make a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I came in having been playing calendar Jenga for not Jenga, calendar Tetris for a while.
Could be
I just pull one
when
and it
it
all
all
falls
falls
apart. So it
down.
is. It is a little bit of both Tetris and Jenga, but it is which feels quite overwhelming to me. And that sense of I get the opportunity to hold space in this way. That's why there's so much on my calendar is a lot of holding of space. And if I'm doing that, in what ways, how do I reach in to get the tablespoon or the cup that I then can sip from so I can be cared for while I'm doing it? Right. And understanding, right, in the big scheme of things, the weeks that I'm playing Tetris in my calendar on, it's not forever. It's just a short period of time, caring for myself in that process in a different way that maybe isn't the ultimate of what I want, which I had mentioned to you before we started recording, which is that place of pouring into me on a more regular basis. I don't have that set up as I'm going into this period. So, what can I do on a smaller teaspoon size that will support me energetically? Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. I love when we have these conversations where we're actually receiving as much as we're giving. I feel like it's most of our conversations. And yet this, both of us showed up a little raw today for our own reasons. And, the cosmos definitely was not helping at the time of this recording. So, but knowing that through dialogue, we're helping each other and hopefully we're helping those that are listening as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, listener, for coming along on the ride. And we're going to find the little micro
I'll put the
videos
link
that
to
we
it.
did in the show notes because those are really great. There's some good stuff there.
There was.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Coming up on 200 episodes, we definitely have talked about more than one thing over those years. And there's a lot of great content out there. A
I
lot
know.
of great content.
I know. And look at us actually remembering that we did those things. It's like, I'm all impressed with ourselves. It's like, oh, yeah, we did do that. Yeah, yeah. So maybe I'm not as exhausted as I think I am because my brain was sharp.
Good job.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today.
Take care for now.
And that's all for this week's episode of the Empowered and Embodied Show. We hope today's episode has sparked something within you. Remember, we're all on this journey together. If something did resonate with you today, why not share it with a friend who might need to hear it too? You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. Your feedback not only helps others find the show, but also helps us understand what's most valuable to you. Until next time, be kind to yourself, stay curious, and remember, we're walking right alongside you. Thanks for being part of our community.